All right, so if we transition over to America, we see that the first Department of Sociology in the U.S. was combined with history also, was the University of Kansas in 1891. So there's KU. The first independent, standalone Department of Sociology was founded a year later in 1892 at the University of Chicago. And there's their logo there. And the Chicago School of Sociology, as it came to be known, really dominated early American sociology. That was kind of like the main department. And that was largely the case until, say, like the 1940s, when it really transitioned over to Harvard in the work of Tucker Parsons, who we'll talk about later in the semester. So the Chicago School, which is really responsible for founding what we today call symbolic interactionism, was dominant. I mean, that was kind of early American sociology. But you might hear people refer to the Chicago School in terms of economics. And it's just important to note that these are they're different disciplines and also very different schools of thought. They're doing very different things. Basically, the Chicago School economists are libertarians and advocates for free market. And some famous people that come from there are like Milton Friedman and Frederick Hayek. The Chicago School of Sociology is more focused on social interactions. Some early work focused on like assimilation and those related issues, more cultural in orientation. So Chicago School is really dominant in the early part of American sociology. However, you can make a strong and compelling case that a large part of what we consider today to be a kind of like modern sociology really traces back to the work of W.E. Du Bois. And that a lot of what the Chicago School gets credit for was actually pioneered by Du Bois, but at least until recently, he wasn't given credit for that, largely because he was a black scholar and a black sociologist and faced discrimination, and his work was marginalized. And so I titled this slide An American Scholar Denied, because that's a title of a book that really outlines this case that the Chicago School, or many Chicago School theorists, were aware of Du Bois's work and were influenced by it, but didn't give him credit. So it looks like they were these pioneers, even though they were building on work that he had done. And one thing you'll notice is that we have a color photo of Du Bois, unlike the other founding figures of sociology that we've seen. And this is attributable to the fact that you can see down here is that Du Bois lived a very long time, into his 90s. And he was an active scholar really late into his life. And so produced a tremendous amount of work and influenced a couple of generations of sociologists. And so you can make a very strong case that Du Bois is one of the founding members of American sociology, although it hasn't been until recently that people have been giving him the credit that he rightly deserves. But one way in which people started to try to make amends for this is that a few years back, the University of Pennsylvania, where Du Bois had a 1 year position early in his career, they granted him the status of honorary emeritus professor. So basically, they made him a member of the faculty. Now, this is obviously after his death, but it's kind of a symbolic recognition that the University of Pennsylvania had basically a rock star scholar as part of their faculty, but didn't hold on to him, didn't give him the credit he deserved, largely because of his skin color and his race, and are now realizing, that was a mistake. And again, symbolically trying to address that in some capacity. All right, so that's kind of the origins of sociology in various parts of the world. What we're going to do now is jump back into this question of kind of the origins of sociology and the historical context in which our discipline was born.